up guys, if you're new to the channel, this is a 1989 Yamaha Moto 4 and we're going to be installing some lights today. So you might notice that this thing is pretty tore apart. I got the battery out, I added some bus bars because I knew I was going to be installing all these lights, and I'm currently in the process of installing this winch. So that video is going to come out first. So if you haven't seen that video, make sure you check that out to see how we got the four-wheeler tore down to this point. So here's all the parts we're going to be installing. I got these two lights here. They're going to be used as reverse lights. I got some USB ports because when you're out on the trail, you definitely want to charge up your phone, and that's real nice to have. I got some switches and relays to wire all that up with. I've also got some LED rock lights I'm going to be throwing on this thing, and in the back I'm going to throw on an LED whip because who doesn't need one of those? Now that stuff hasn't come yet, but hopefully it'll get here soon so we can get it on the four-wheeler. And as always, if you guys have any questions on the stuff I'm using in today's video, or you have any questions on the stuff that's on this four-wheeler in general, make sure you head over to my website. I'll throw a link down in the description, and on that page there will be a list of all the products I've used and links to where you can buy them. Alright, so that's enough talking. Let's get to work. The first thing I want to do is install both of these lights, and I'm thinking I'm going to be putting them on that rear rack. So I got to get that plastic back on. Don't need to bolt it, just going to put it on and just set that rack into place, and we're going to see where we can mount these things. Oh man, look at what just in. Woo! Got the whips and the rock lights in. Sorry, I get distracted very easily. Well, let's get back to figuring out how in the world we're gonna mount out those reverse lights. Now, if you got the same lights I did, which are these Nye lights, I don't know how to pronounce that, but in order to mount this bracket here, you just drop the nut into this little cubby hole, and that kind of captures it. And then you use your socket head cap screw and a washer to attach it on both sides. Now, when I put these on the four-wheeler, I'm thinking I'm gonna mount them somewhere right here on this rear bumper. I thought this plastic was a lot closer, but I actually have a ton of room, and I can probably build a bracket that comes off of this piece here to mount that to. So I'll mount one on this side, and then I'll mount one on this side as well. And when I build the bracket, I'm gonna build it off of this bar. That way that'll look pretty clean from the top. Otherwise, if I try to tuck this in, I'm gonna have to build something that comes across here, and that's just not gonna be very pretty. Not too bad, so I think I know exactly where those lights need to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and start building those brackets. Got our little brackets all made up. I welded on the sides first, got those kind of sanded down looking real pretty. And then I got this plate up top made, captured the nut by welding it on there, and then I welded that top plate on. So that side's done, and this side is also done. Everything is looking pretty good, so let's go ahead and get those lights bolted onto the four-wheeler and see what it looks like. Have it. The reverse lights are in. I think they look pretty good. I think they're in a good spot. So, don't want to damage them when I'm doing everything else. So I'm going to pull them real quick. And then I think we'll start working on little brackets that we're going to put on the corner to mount the whips. So I got my whip, and when I attached it to the four-wheeler, I want to be 100% sure that it is straight up and down. So I'm going to use a level on the top of it, and I don't want to burn it when I tack it into place. So I created a little shield here out of cardboard. Hopefully I don't light the thing on fire. And then just to get some of that heat away from the bottom of this thing where all the electronics are. I spaced out a bunch of washers and then put my tab on, but that'll give me a good idea of how flat this tab needs to be. So I'm gonna get that tacked onto the frame here, and then I can remove the whip and get it fully welded. That's about as level as I can get it. The connection down here is not exactly the tightest fit. As you can see, I got it kind of wobbling around, but I think it'll be level enough. And for the price of these things, I don't think you can beat it. Here's the final product. Now we get to do the exact same thing to this side. If everything goes the way I planned it, I am done modifying this back rack. Now I'm ready to mount the rock lights. So in order to do that, I'm thinking about pulling off this fender here, which requires me to remove that rack. And then also all these steering components need to come off so I can get that little plastic shroud out. And of course, I'm not just gonna zip tie these things in, I'm gonna do it right. And I'm gonna mount a plate probably up in here somewhere. So that's why I need to go ahead and remove the fender just so I can get access to that area. Taped off the room, put 2 space heaters in there. So hopefully that pushes some heat down there. Here's the first bracket, so I'm gonna go ahead and use this plate as a template, and I gotta make 7 more of these things. All 8 of these brackets have finally been made, so now it's time to go ahead and get these on the 4-wheeler. So up front here, I'd like to mount 2 lights. I want one kind of pointing up towards the front of the 4-wheeler, and then I want one kind of pointing back here towards the engine. So I have this piece of tube here. I'm gonna cut a piece of it, and I'm gonna weld it right across this beam here. Now that fender sits right on top of here, so I'm gonna try to keep those lights as tucked up in that fender as much as possible. That way you don't see them from the side of the 4-wheeler. And then I'm just gonna weld these tabs on the side of it, and we'll kind of angle them so one, like I said, is pointed towards the front and one's pointed towards the back. Alright, so here's the tube, and I notched it so that way it kind of nests right in here with this tube. And then that'll allow us to attach one bracket in the back and then one in the front. And that'll also leave an opening in the middle where I can throw an extension so I can still get this bolt into it. Before I get this thing welded onto the 4-wheeler, I am gonna cap it. That'll keep all the dirt, mud, and gunk out and just keep it from rotting from the inside out. Once I get that capped, I'm gonna throw it on the 4-wheeler and tack it in place. everything tacked in, and both of the rock lights are mounted, and yeah, it's hooked up to the battery. So we're gonna be able to test this thing out. I wanna throw that fender back on just to be sure everything fits perfectly fine before I get everything fully welded. And then also, is this overkill? It absolutely is, but anybody can just zip tie these things up. Not everybody can make something as beautiful as this. Alright, so the lights work well. I can go ahead and change all the different color settings, so that's good to go. And then we are running into one little clearance issue up in here. This bolt right here is hitting the plastic, but I'm gonna have to cut these bolts down anyways. They're super long. Once I get that bolt cut down, that plastic will sit down in there, and I believe we'll have plenty of room. So now that we got this side done, we gotta do the other side. Right side of the ATV is done, and in order to get these angles to match that other side perfectly, I used this level, and then I just kind of found where that little bubble was level on that side, and then I matched this side and got everything tacked into place. So this side is identical to that other side. Everything's just tacked into place right now. I'm gonna get it fully welded. Well, you guys, I tried. These welds up here, not too bad. Now, welding around this tube was absolutely miserable. Couldn't get the proper gun angle. I was hitting everything. Getting underneath there was a pain, but you know what? These are just holding on rock lights, so I got penetration in some spots, enough to make it hold, that's for sure. Here's the other side. Like I said, not the prettiest welds around that tube, but it'll hold. About a week now since I have touched the four-wheeler, and that means our brackets are dry. So I'm gonna go ahead, throw the rock lights on, get the basic wiring started, then I'll start assembling the front end and get that plastic back on here as well. All of these lights daisy chain off of each other. So there's one light that has a single wire coming out, so that's gonna be in the furthest most spot, and then they're just gonna daisy chain their way to the back of the four-wheeler where I plan on putting that control box. That took a little bit, but those rock lights are up under there and they're looking good. And those wires are just ran to the back of the four-wheeler for now. Got the plastic on, the rack on, the lights back on, everything's hooked up, the hour meter's hooked up. Here's what those rock lights look like up underneath the four-wheeler, and I cut down those bolts so they are no longer touching that plastic. Now everything on this four-wheeler is LEDs. These rock lights are LEDs, headlights, light bar, all LEDs, and even this tail light has also been converted to LED. With that being said, there's only 3 lights on this thing that have not been converted yet, and that's this reverse, neutral, and oil temp light. So we're gonna take care of that right now. Underneath this little dash area here, there are these 3 little rubber grommets that hold the bulbs in. So I went ahead and unplugged them, and this is what that old bulb used to look like. And I went ahead and purchased new bulbs, which are LEDs. They're supposed to be plug and play. So I'm gonna plug them in and hopefully it'll work. So I'll get the battery hooked up and just test it out. Hopefully they light up. Got the battery plugged in just temporarily. Now the front lights do work. And these gauge lights also work, but the oil temperature light is on, and I have never seen that light on this four-wheeler ever before. So I think we either have an issue with that light bulb or we have an issue with the oil temperature sensor. So I gotta get that figured out. All right, so I've been messing around with this oil temperature sensor light for a little bit now, and if we throw the LED bulb in there, you can see it just lights up. Now if we throw the normal bulb in there, it lights up and then it starts going out. So I thought that maybe it was this bad sensor thermo switch here. So I connected this wire to the ground and watch what happens when I do that. And you can see that light bulb kicks on and off exactly like it should. So I don't think I have a bad sensor. I'm thinking it's just there's some sort of current that's constantly flowing through that light bulb, and it must be enough to kick on that LED, but not enough to kick on that incandescent bulb. I'm gonna take the old school bulb, put it back in the oil temperature sensor light little pocket here, and then the other two I'm gonna leave LEDs because they're on off. There doesn't seem to be any sort of current just going through them all the time like that other one. As far as the front goes, that's pretty much as far as I want to go assembling it. I do have that USB port and the two switches I want to put up in here, so I'm going to hold off on putting that shroud in and the handlebars. But now we're able to move to the back and get the other rock lights mounted.